Hey guys, we brought all of this stuff. Should we just let it off? Like, yeah, yeah. I think so too. Yeah, okay, yeah, okay. And then let's do it. Yeah, okay. That's a great idea. Oh, you're doing it, so I'll do it too. Okay, yeah, yeah. Let's all do it. Yeah, we all brought smoke bombs, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. The fuck are you doing? If you brought smoke bombs to a game and you don't score, you don't let them off. It's America.
Siemi Bakayoko, oh yo, Samina Mina, Edward Mende, Samina Mina Sam Sadakte. He comes from Senegal.
And I think going out and get Saul was the top transfer of the market for Chelsea.
Chesney could have been in the shower smoking a cigarette like he was at Arsenal, and we still would not have scored.
My rants have been fueled by Scotch. Don't get it twisted.
Big Rom. Man, fuck you.
In Roman we trust, right?
You and me are going to have a battle royale about Jorginho and diving.
The flag stays down.
All right. Well, to everyone on Twitch and those listening after the fact, welcome to the Flag Stays Down podcast, preseason edition, bully season edition, winning edition. 2-1 win in Las Vegas against Club America. And before we get started here, again, make sure to follow us on Twitch. We're going to be live streaming after all of these preseason matches in America here. Just kind of a short recap of the game, things we noticed, items like that. So you got me, Andy. You can follow me on Twitter at Comiskey North. You got Parker at DJ Parkour, and you got Matt at Matus Lee. Boys, again, 2-1 win in Vegas. It's been a while since Chelsea's been in America. How we doing? How we doing on this Saturday night? So it's been a while since I've asked that question. I love it.
We won, baby. We scored 3 goals. 2 of them were against the club, and one for Club America. So we got to help them out a little bit with a little freebie. So it was a little bit more tense than I think we wanted it to be. But hey, got out there, stretched some legs, go out there and make 8 or 9 subs at halftime. And yeah, it's a preseason game. What else is there to say?
Yeah, it was a game. I mean, you look at how we did last season, it's especially at the second half of last season, kind of similar, a little nervy at times, but yeah, I mean, came out with the win, so that's important. Reece James, clinical finisher on both ends of the pitch. Doesn't matter what he does, he scores. So it is what it is. But yeah, it was good to see some of the forgotten about talent, get a chance to show out a little bit and see what they have to offer. So always excited for preseason and see who we think is going to stay and who we think might need a little bit more work.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. But my big question, my big takeaway from this one was, what do you guys get more out of in this first preseason match? How we did on the pitch, or how much better those jerseys look than we thought they would?
Low-hanging fruit is obviously the jerseys, because and I mentioned this last week on our pod that won't get ever broadcast because of some audio issues that happened. But when you see them out on TV, it looks a lot different than when you kind of analyze it with a microscope online. So I thought the jerseys look good. They're a clean kit, and yeah, I enjoyed seeing those. But to your point, Collins, I think it also is important just to see, not to make any drastic evaluations on how our team looks today, and it's definitely not an indication of the season, but just to see how the boys are playing and seeing how some link up things could happen, and how we start to fantasize about people like Connor Gallagher and how he could definitely boss a midfield. And he was kind of the standout for me. And so we'll get into that a little bit later, but just seeing some players and kind of evaluating individual performances a little bit. That's what's important in the preseason.
So Parker, I'll double down on that a little bit. And when I talked about the kits, knowing what their away is going to be, and knowing like that subtle tie, like, yeah, you have the collar that has that paisley pattern or whatever. We know what the away kits are going to look like with everything that's been leaked out. And I mentioned this to you guys when we were watching the game, like that stripe on the sock, like that kind of ties everything together, makes it very holistic, right? We didn't see that in a lot of the images from the kit release. So I think seeing that, it kind of ties it all in together a little bit, me for more, and I'm all about it. So I will bump my rating from a 6 that I gave last week up to an 8.
And just for reference again, Parker, like I said, it's it's a podcast that no one will ever get to hear except for us. I screwed up the audio on my end. So yeah, we pretty collectively had rated the kits as pretty average, if not below average. But yeah, it was nice seeing them on the guys today. It's a nice, very plain blue kit, which is what a home kit should be. Unlike the trash one that you guys are wearing, which I also spent money on last year.
Don't you start with me. Don't you dare start. This is a beautiful
this
kit.
This one outside of the missing half letter M on Samsung was a classic. Just blue, white. That's all you need.
I think we all have one like that. Like I've got a Drogba one, or I think the Drogba one I have was when they had the Samsung, and like the blue was like a darker blue, then it went to lighter, and then it just kind of transitioned down. Like that's one that I have. I love that one. It's so nice, but it's a Chelsea blue kit, right? I mean, what more do you want? Granted, me being the, as Collins, you put it, the more flamboyant one out of all of us, I like something a little bit different. I like something kind of bold and just kind of out of the ordinary. So I'm a huge fan of last year's kit, and I like this year's kit. It's simple, but it's got that little bit of extra. So I'm all about it. And then now knowing that the socks had that stripe that kind of blends everything together, makes total sense for me.
All right. Well, you know what? The people didn't come here to listen to our kit evaluation. That's our other podcast.
That's the other podcast, Kits in America.
Right. The We Call Them Jerseys podcast. So let's talk a little bit about the match and what we saw. Again, it's preseason. You got to take everything with a grain of salt. But there are some things that you can take away from what we saw. So let's start with just around the horn here. The biggest thing that you saw, the thing that stuck out to you the most. And I'll start on this one. Just throw one out here. And that's that we looked slow. Like we need Raheem Sterling out there, right? We need more Pulisic out there. Things look better when Pulisic came out in the second half. Then again, we also had 10 new guys on the pitch. With Ziyech, Havertz, and surprisingly Hudson-Odoi out there, things looked slow. I used the word at the beginning of last season. Things looked constipated. There just wasn't that fluidity. And it may come down to personnel. It may come down to first preseason match, first game in 56 days. you're playing against Club America's first team in that first half as opposed to the second team in the second half. Who knows? But Matt, like you had alluded to it earlier, it looked like more of the same of last year. So, I don't know if I'm hoping that Raz changes that, or maybe we need somebody who's more of a clinical striker down the middle. We'll see. But that was kind of my biggest takeaway of the game.
And the way I look at it, so looking at things top to bottom, like if I think this is a game we have to break down half by half. The first half, you have to understand, we have Ziyech, we have Kai, we have Cho, but you also have Ross Barkley playing in the midfield, right? And sometimes he was on the left trying to help with Cho and Chills. Like Cho wasn't getting, I don't think, and I'll be honest, I was the first one to say, no, he's man of the get the fuck out of here award. Like I didn't see anything about him. At the same time, when you have at times Ross on the left trying to like do what he does, which I'm not even sure what that is, like then Cho gets very lost in that scenario, because I think Ross is more of like a one-on-one type midfielder, and then that leaves Cho pretty exposed. Like we didn't see what we saw of Chills early last year. We didn't see any of that because there really wasn't a lot of link up between them. We were definitely more dominant on the right side, but at the same time, when you look at Ziyech, he was doing the same stuff. Like he had that great ball in off that free kick to Thiago Silva that got stopped. But when you look at who else is coming down on that right-hand side, it was Kennedy, a left-footed player playing on the right. So to me, that's a little bit hard to judge, especially the proven players. Like we know what they can do. I would say especially Kai and Ziyech, not so much Cho. I think for me, the biggest thing with Cho is that he was hyped up so much for taking a short vacation, getting in the gym, trying to put in work. Like he wanted a spot on that left front side. And I didn't see any of that work that was put in. I didn't see any of that with the way that he played tonight. So for me, that makes it tough. At the same time, like you got Ross, you got Kennedy, like you got guys that rarely played. Kennedy got recalled from loan last year. So it's like, where does he really fit into the squad? Usually almost predominantly on the left, and now he's playing on the right. So how is Ziyech going to try and pair up with that with somebody that he's never played with? And then you have somebody who's playing on what I would consider the wrong side of the pitch. So I think that's a little tough on them in the first half. Kai had a good chance, just kind of squandered it. But again, first match, don't want to take too much into it, but it just seemed like the combination that we had out there to start was a little bit hectic and a little bit chaotic.
That's fair. I think the biggest takeaway, the lasting thoughts from the match for me are just some of the players that needed to prove something, and how well did they kind of live up to it. And most of the players that are kind of on the fringe, maybe aren't guaranteed a spot on the squad, but are kind of fighting for one. Emerson, Kennedy, Connor Gallagher, I still throw in that because he's unproven today. And Michy Batshuayi is in that group. All of them played fairly well from my standpoint. I thought all of them kind of showed out, didn't have too many errors. Michy had a couple of good chances that you could argue he should have done a little bit better with, but he found himself in pretty good situations, and he's got that striker mentality, and which I like, and I think we need more of. Do I wish he was a little bit more clinical? Yeah, I said that to you guys during the match. I wish he was a bit tidier with his finishes, but hey, I would respect a guy for taking the shots in front of him and being in those positions, and I think the goals come. And then the people that kind of disappointed us a little bit last year, they kind of continued to disappoint us again this year, and some of our finishing in front of goals still lacks a lot to be desired, and that's probably our biggest issue to date. Was we find ourselves in really good situations like Kai did, and Timo had some, and Kennedy had a good shot on goal, and those are the moments that just make you kind of cringe a little bit as a fan. But yeah, overall it was a decent showing, decent link up. Two completely separate halves and two completely sets of personnel, different personnel, and people working together on different situations. But I think our second half outperformed our first half in a lot of ways. And I don't know if that was by design by Tuchel, or if that was just kind of things he wanted to see, or I would love to get inside the mind of DC a little bit and see why he put the first 11 out that he did versus the second 11 out that he did, and who he was kind of honing in on. But I will make a statement, Matt, you're going to hate me, but I do just love the poise and containment that Jorginho brings to our team. I just think he brings a different dimension to us, and it's not always quantified, and it's not always seen or noticed, but it's kind of felt. And just when he gets out there, I feel it in a different sense, on offense especially, not necessarily on the defensive end of the ball, but on offense, I feel Palmer when he's in control of the midfield and he's kind of quarterbacking plays out there. So when the second half started and I watched him out there, I felt that instantly, and I was like, okay, cool, like we're in good hands now, we're all right. And then things kind of calmed down a little bit, settled into the match, kind of did our thing a little bit more in the second half. Unfortunate the own goal, but hey, preseason doesn't count for anything.
So Collins, I'll get to you in just a second. So I think from what surprised me the most was Connor Gallagher, and how we've talked about him being more of an attacking midfielder, right? Somebody that's kind of designed to go more forward. We don't know if he can do that kind of link up play or that Jorginho-esque type role. I thought he did that supremely well. We were all commenting on like the turns that he made, and if he had just kind of run throughs, like he seemed to own that spot. When he wanted to make his runs, he did. So I was very surprised in that regard, because like we've all said, I've always considered him more of like an attacking mid, more of kind of like a Mason Mount, right? Just that attacking player. But he was kind of that pivot player for most of that first half. And the way that he handled himself, the poise that he had, the passes that he was making, I was quite happy with what I saw out of him. So if Jorginho were to go, I think that Connor Gallagher would be a very suitable replacement for him. Am I saying he's as good as Jorginho? No. Does he have the ability to do so? After watching that first half, I completely think so. Because he was, from my standpoint, he was kind of handling that midfield, especially in tight positions and things like that we would expect Jorginho to handle. He was doing a very good job of that. So I give a lot of props to him. But Collins, go ahead. What's your rundown?
I'm sure we're going to get into the Jorginho debate. For those of you who listened last year, it's a major point of contention between Matt and I. Usually Parker has to step in and moderate at that point. Then for those new followers, I'm sure you heard it in our new intro here as well. I don't want to talk about that tonight. Jorginho wasn't the focal point. I thought he had a good match, but as a veteran, you expect him to, especially in a preseason friendly. I like that you touched on Gallagher. He's one of the main people I want to chat about here. To me, he looked like a mixture. If I had to kind of pick and choose exactly who he reminds me of, it was a mixture of both Conte in the fact that he was pressuring high up the pitch. He was always very close to wherever ball comes into his area. He's always right on it. And Kovacic. We saw a couple times where he dummies and turns and runs and goes and gets it behind him. We saw him attack defenders. We saw him go around defenders. We saw him do some very Mateo Kovacic like things. And having that mixture of those two, Conte and Kova, is a fantastic player to have. Again, it's preseason, and so I take this with a grain of salt. He played well. I thought he played really well. I would have liked to see him a little more, but I understand why he didn't play more. But I'm assured in my suspicions on how he's going to do, based on how well he did in the Premier League last year for Palace. It's a little different with the guys like Ampadu, Billy Gilmore to an extent, even though he was in the Premier League. But some of these guys who are loaned out continental Europe, where you don't really know how it's going to translate, right? Different league, different system kind of thing. But Gallagher, I'm fairly certain is going to have a breakout year at Chelsea this year. And I think this was kind of the first step into that. Another person I want to talk about tonight, because I don't want to beat the Gallagher horse to death here and then having to go back and cut this all when he flops. But another guy I want to talk about, we've already touched on a little bit, is Michy Batshuayi. This was kind of a debate we had. We all watched the game through our stream here, and we were talking about Michy towards the end of the game, whether he was deserving of a man to get the fuck out of here, or a man of the match, or somewhere in between. Let's just get right into that. Matt, you have his jersey. You can kick it off. How did Michy do?
So I thought that Michy had a good game, solely for the fact that he was able to create in tight spaces. I think that's something that we've had an issue doing. Obviously, all three of us, we play FIFA. We know that FIFA goal when you're on the counter and you got two guys running, one's ahead, and then you just hit that square pass, and it's just an easy goal. I feel like that's what Chelsea tries to do, but at the same time, we haven't had that clinical striker. And I'm not saying Michy's clinical, right? Because he missed some goals or he missed some shots that I think should have and could have been goals. But he's able to operate in tight spaces. He was able to create opportunities for himself out of damn near nothing. And I think that's a big asset that we can add. And I'm not saying he's gonna take over like Kai's spot. I'm not saying that, but he is somebody that can operate in those tight spaces, kind of like when we had that Olivier Giroud type player that can just operate in kind of those unknown, very tight knit. You got two defenders around you. You got to figure something out. And we saw Michy do that 2-3 times and was able to get a shot off. The big thing that I noticed outside of that was there was a run that he made where he purposely delayed his run until his defender saw him, and then he sprinted to the near post and almost got a goal off of that. It was an awkward touch for him to take, but he was purposely watching, and then as soon as the defender looked back at him, he sprinted to that near post and he was ahead of it. Like, those are things that I think that we could benefit from having him as that backup number 9.
I'm a little split. Yeah, I'm kind of split on Meach. I thought he got himself into good spots and made the right runs, got into space and found himself foot at the ball. But my only fear is I just don't want him to become like Timo 2.0, where he does the things, he does all the right stuff, and it's all the things we praise. And I love your reaction, Collins, because I know you're feeling the same way. Like, you do all the right stuff, all the things that we praise, but does it result to goals? Can we translate into that in something tangible that we can take home and put on the score line? And that's my only fear with him. I go back and forth as a fan because people who don't put themselves in those positions get less opportunities to. And so should I judge them more harshly than Michi? Then probably, Ram is a clinical person who didn't do that. And we roasted him kind of rightfully so for it. So, should I judge Michi harsher than him that he missed? Probably not, but I don't know. Like, it's a tough one as a fan to evaluate, but I liked what I saw. I liked the energy. I liked some of his quick footwork, and that was a very positive for me to see. And I said it kind of earlier in the intro, but it's like the striker mentality is something that we need. And I think we have a lot of creatives on our team, and they're going to put him into continually good situations where he'll be able to pick his spots and be in the right spot at the right time. And we don't need someone super cutesy or creative. We need a Diego Costa. We need an Olivier Giroud. We need people to put the ball in the back of the net to finish off those attacks, because Mace and Pulisic and Ziyech and Sterling and a lot of other people are going to set them up for success. So we just need the clinical. We just need the finish, nothing else. And that's what I'm hoping for. That's what we need from a number 9 or a true striker in that situation. So, but overall, my feeling towards him is positive. Today, it's positive. I just have a little bit of nagging worry from seasons past of other people kind of burning me in similar situations.
I'm so glad that you mentioned the Timo Werner comp, because that was exactly what was running through my head. Thinking about his performance and thinking about what you were saying, Matt, of he's getting into positions, he's making opportunities for himself. Like, yeah, Timo does that too. But we were calling for Timo to be sold. And Michi is 28 years old and making the same mistakes as Timo Werner. Like, it's not like Michi's a young guy. It's not like, he'll come into his own eventually. Like, eventually is now. And so this is kind of a make or break preseason. And yes, it's great if you're getting into positions. It's great if you're creating chances. But if you can't finish, how does that upgrade over what we have on the squad? We already have forwards who can't finish, who are younger and who could improve. So I'm sorry. I need to see more out of Michi in the next 2 matches. And if not, I'm under the impression that he's gone.
So I completely agree. Like, I would have liked to see Michi score at least one of his opportunities. I would have been all about that. I completely understand where you're going with that. The only caveat that I will throw on Michi is he scored the winning goal, I believe it was against West Brom, that secured us the league title under Conte. And then he went on loan. So this is his first time back under Tuchel in a completely different system after being on loan. So I think he's still trying to get a little bit of that. I'm not going to use it as a full-blown excuse, but I think it's worth noting, like, he's coming back to a Chelsea team that's under kind of a revamp. But like, he's getting back into a new system, trying to learn how Tuchel wants him to play, the spots that he needs to get in, trying to mesh with everybody. And I think that's a tough ask of anybody to do at that point. But no, I completely agree. Like, do I think Michi's going to be an absolute star 20 goal scorer? No, I really don't. But based on what I saw last year with what we had in the front with Ram and Kai, the biggest thing that I noticed was the opportunity for them to create, or the opportunity for Michi to create on his own in those tight spaces, which we all know Ram's first touch was atrocious. Michi, he looked smooth. He looked confident. He looked like kind of like a man possessed to try and like go out there and score a goal, which I don't think that's a Kai thing. I don't think that's a Ram thing. And I think that's Michi to a T. And I think with some opportunity with the club, he could definitely be a 12 to 15 goal scorer in the league, no problem.
I'm gonna leave you with a stat because, of course, you know, take a drink after this one. In his last 6 seasons, Michi is averaging 6 goals per year in the Bundesliga, La Liga, Premier League, and Turkish Super League. 29 goals in the last 5.5 years. He hasn't scored more than 15 goals since 2015 at Marseille. So I
think he's poised. I think he's ready. I think he knows that this is kind of like his last chance at a big club. Like, I think that he's well aware of that. Like, yeah, he's going to be the backup striker for the Belgian national team. Like, I think we all know that. But this is I think he feels like this is his last chance to prove that he can play top European football. So I think he has more of a chip on his shoulder to prove more and do more than he's done in the past. So I'm hopefully optimistic for Michi.
I think he can score more goals than Ram. Like, I don't want to talk about Ram all season, but at the same time, like, I think he'll find himself into more positions to score goals than Ram did, because I think he's more willing to make those runs, and I think he's more willing to get in those spots. And in an offense that's going to be fairly dynamic, if the fortune favors the bold, fortune favors the people that move and that create and that make stuff happen, he's going to get opportunities. I mean, we laugh about Timo. Timo scored a goal today. We're kind of like, yeah, well, that was kind of bullshit. But Timo still scored a goal today because he found himself in the right spot after a beautiful Jorginho pass to James, who had a beautiful cross, into Timo, who had 2 chances at it, and he.
I mean, to be fair, he did hit it off Michi, so Michi, I think, might be credited for an assist, but
a handball assist, if you will, right? Like,
it is what it is. There's no VAR.
But point being, Timo's not the greatest striker in the world, but Timo had a decent amount of goals come his way because he's fast and he makes runs and he does things to put himself in situations. And if Michi can do that, he'll get some stats. I mean, he might not be the most prolific striker on the planet, sure, but he'll be in decent positions to convert an okay amount of goals. And sad to say that, like, that's all we need, but we don't need that 29 goals a year kind of a prolific striker. We have a pretty fluent offense that has strikers in Reece James and Ben Chills that can also score goals and it doesn't really matter where they come from, but he'll get his, and I think it'll be an okay kind of balanced attack. Just need him to take the chances that he gets when he gets them.
Yeah, and I think that a combination of, you know, Kai and Michi, I don't think that's a bad combination. I personally think it's better than what we had last season, right? Like, you have somebody who can. Kai's not going to be the one to be like the down and gritty. He's a little bit more finesse than Michi is, but Michi can get down and gritty. He's a big body. You know, he can work down against central defenders. So I think you need kind of that 1-2 punch, and I feel like he would be a good complement. And not to mention, it's somebody that we don't have to pay for. Right? So we can go out and spend that money elsewhere. So I think we look to what we have, and keep in mind, we also have Broja. So I think we really have options, and I think that we're in a good spot where we are to be able to supplement what we've expected out of Kai for the last season and a half.
So I'm glad you brought up Broja, but let's just do a real quick game of gun to your head here.
Yes.
Tuchel has said already that we have too many forwards, that we don't need to go buy one because we have too many. Broja didn't appear today, but in terms of just straight out, you know, who we're going to be playing in that number 9 role, you got Kai Havertz, Michy Batshuayi, Timo Werner, and then Armando Broja. One of those guys is not making the squad. I would assume Timo and Kai, due to their salaries, are probably going to make the squad and do their values. So who's getting cut? Who is being sent out on loan or being sold? Broja or Michi?
Oof.
For me, it's an easy one. It's Michi. Broja's got the upside and the Premier League experience. I know Michi does too, but Michi hasn't played in the Premier League in 4 years.
The only counter to it is that Broja's got a relatively decent sticker value to him. He sold for assets, whereas you can't turn Michi for 35 million pounds today, but you can for Broja. So if you're looking at it from like a financial long-term kind of a play, that's the only scenario I see it where it's Broja out. But yeah, I think just in terms of quality, it's an upside and potential. You'd have to go with Broja.
You know how much I love Michi. Both of you know.
You can love him in MLS too.
No, stop. Like, I'm a big fan of Broja. I really am. I wouldn't be upset if he went out on loan. I personally would not be upset if he went out on loan. So, and that's kind of going to your thing. Like you said, Michi is what, 28, 29? Broja's what, 20, 21?
Yep.
You can give him another crack out on loan and then bring him back and let him just tear shit up. Like, it to me, I think you go with Michi. You see your investment out, right? We paid what, 35 mil for him. We're not going to get that back for him. We might get 10 to 15 on a good day, depending on who we sell him to. So I think you give him that opportunity. And even when he was with Conte, he didn't play bad. Like, I didn't think that he played bad. Like, he wasn't great, but you also had Costa, who was your main striker, and he was the backup. I think he does good in that backup role. I think Broja wants that starting position, but I don't know if he's going to outplay Kai to get to that point. So I would say you keep Michi, you loan out Broja, and then you keep Timo. I know both of you hate that idea, but I would say that you keep Timo. You let him just run himself into the ground, because despite what a lot of people think, he's kind of a Chelsea fan favorite. Like, people like his work ethic the same way that they loved Rudy, right? Like, obviously two completely different positions, but everybody loved Rudy. Yeah, he did his shithousery, which made people love him. Like, and that's why we all love him. But Timo's still going to grind. He may not capitalize on the chances that he should, but he's still going to grind. And he's still going to be the person that says, that's my fault. He's not going to say, oh no, there, like, something happened. No, he's going to be somebody to say, no, that's my fault. I need to be better. I think you need a player like that at the club that will bust their ass and do what they need to do. Obviously, with Raz coming in, Timo's chances are going to be limited. But I do think if you run Raz for 70 minutes and then you run a fresh Timo for 20, you're going to see a lot of different looks, especially along that left side. If you have Chills running, a full 90, depending on what Alonso does, maybe you have that, or even like we saw today, Emerson, like, held his own, did a great job, almost had a wonder strike of a goal. Like, you have options. So that's kind of where I look at it.
All right. Well, let's wrap up here with our polls for the match. So, boys, no checking Twitter on this. I want your guys' honest reaction. So, for those who don't know, for new followers, new listeners, after every match, we run two polls. Number one being our man of the match, which I made the executive decision, much to the failure of these two, to rename it the Thiago Silva Memorial Man of the Match Award. Thiago Silva was on the most of our man of the match polls last season, and was our highest rated player. So I'm just going to go ahead and give that award to him. Lifetime achievement. We had Mason Mount, Connor Gallagher, Jorginho, Michy Batshuayi. Parker, we'll start with you. Who is your man of the match?
Yeah, for me it was Mace, just from his moment of brilliance. Thought he scored a really fantastic goal that was unexpected, and the way he got away from his defender, saw the second one coming, and hit the goal was enough to kind of push the scales in his favor, both in the score sheet and for the man of the match award. And it's all about goals, man. I mean, that's really the only metric that we judged players by is goals, and Mace had a cracker of one today. So thought he deserved it. Thought he played well outside of the goal, but the goal was special. It was one of the great ones for him, and highlight reel, and yeah, not much else to say about it.
If Mace doesn't score that, it's full-blown Connor Gallagher. But for me, Mace.
Yeah, I'm Matt, I had the same sentiment as you, but that's why I chose Connor Gallagher. I thought Gallagher played against Club America's first team. I thought he more than held.
Hold on, except for number 206.
Yeah, except for we'll get to that in a moment. For the most part, Club America's first team was kind of running circles around him for a while. Would have liked to seen more, but nothing he could do about that. Gallagher is my man of the match. But you guys win that one. Mason Mount being voted our man of the match on Twitter. Again, you can find that at FlagDownPod with 64% of the vote. Gallagher at 27, Jorginho at 10, Michi at a whopping 0. All right, let's turn to our second poll, which is the Man of the Get the Fuck Out of Here award. Awesomely created by Parker last season. So anytime you see the hashtag MOTGTFOH, that is what we're looking for, is the worst part of the match, thing you like the least. And so we have 4 nominees in this one as well. You got Reece James for scoring the lone goal. You got 3-digit kit numbers. You got Callum Hudson-Odoi. And you got smoke bombs, but I want to put the caveat on there from Matt, which is shooting him off, letting him go when your team doesn't score a goal the whole match. So again, without looking at the numbers, Matt, we'll start with you this time. Who is your man of the Get the Fuck Out of Here?
I love Reece. I really do. So I can't give it to him. It's got to be Cho. Yeah, I knew I put the, I knew I said, yeah, he's playing with Ross and Connor, so new people, whatever, trying to get used to it. But still, the hype around everything he was doing in training and blah, 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 just nothing. He was still the same Cho. One-on-one, he gets picked every single time. For me, I would have said Cho, hands down.
All right. Well, mine was the 3-digit kit numbers. That annoys me beyond belief here. Again, just like with my kit preferences, I prefer the basic, the traditional, the normal. I hate Liga MX. It is my least favorite league in all of the world, basically. I don't get it. I think it's corrupt. I hate most of the clubs there. The 3-digit thing just pushes it over the top. Stop trying to be fucking weird. Stop trying to be different. Be normal. We don't need a number 208, number 206. Make them number 99. I don't give a fuck. But it's stupid. It's something that MLS would do. Is what I'm coming at it.
We had talked about that as soon as we saw player 206 and player 200. Reminded me, I made the comment of, oh no, that's their new 12-year-old phenom that's actually 37 years old. So running back that Danny Almonte from the Little League World Series. So that's kind of how it feels.
Exactly. And just to close it out here, there's no way you have 206 guys on your roster. You can find a number somewhere between 00 and 99. It's not that hard. All right, so that's mine. Parker, who we got?
And I voted for smoke bombs because what the fuck are you doing celebrating when you're down 2-1 and you haven't scored in the 87th minute? That screams desperation. If you don't score, you take your L's, man.
Don't get smoked.
You take your L proudly and you walk out. You don't celebrate, and it was the most confusing.
Parks, to be fair, it is Vegas, so they are taking L's on the chin left and right.
Yeah, that's fine. And I know they're taking L's with the number 206 as well. So I think they're accustomed to it as I agree with that take, Collins. I don't like that as well, but I just I'm fundamentally against celebrations when celebrations aren't you just take it on the chin and walk out. Americans when they go to Estadio Azteca, American fans, they know that they're going to get piss bags thrown at them. They just take it, win or lose, doesn't matter. You just kind of you embrace it. You embrace your surroundings. It's okay. And when you're in Vegas and you're a Mexico fan and your team loses, you just gotta take it. That's it. You don't get to celebrate it. You don't get to do your festivities. You just take it on the chin. And I'm very much against the celebrations and the smoke bombs and the festivities after a loss. And your team didn't score. And not only did they not score, they had a goal walked in by Reece James. They didn't even come close to scoring. I don't think Bettinelli or Kepa had a save. So they didn't score at all. For me, it's a complete L.
We set up smoke bombs at the Alamo? No, get the fuck out of here.
Nope.
All right. Well, Matt is the winner on this one. God, I said it at the end of last season, and I'm going to reiterate it right now. I hate how much Matt is right on this podcast. Voice of the people, apparently. Callum Hudson-Odoi with 43% is your man of the get the fuck out of here. Reece James coming in second at 24%, 3-digit numbers at 19, and smoke bombs at 14. Honestly, probably all very deserving winners. Yeah, Parker, you're the get the fuck out of here of this podcast.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that,
Well, actually, I have to throw a fifth. Get the fuck out of here. I didn't get the memo about the haircuts that both of you guys got, so I'm a little bit upset about that. Yeah, I know. Both of you are looking fresh as hell, and nobody decided to tell me. So I'm a little bit upset about that. For those that are just listening and not watching us on Twitch, I have a man bun and a healthy beard. So nobody gave me a memo, and I just show up tonight and they're all looking fresh as hell, brand new haircuts. I'm like, thanks. I didn't know that we were going all out for preseason.
we thought we'd be like the rest of the squad. Everybody's got fresh cuts. Kepa, Mace, CP10. Everybody's looking good.
Everybody had fresh cuts.
With the
All right.
times. I mean, what else you got?
I feel like I am with the times, right? Aren't man buns like a thing right now?
Get a fucking job, you hippie. All right. On that note, Matt will get a haircut prior to Charlotte here on Wednesday, right?
Honestly, you got to check with the wife.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, again, appreciate everybody who watched on Twitch tonight, and those of you who are listening via your podcast apps. You can always catch us on any podcast app, Google, Apple, Spotify, etc. Just search at Flag Down Pod. You can also find us on Twitch at Flag Down Pod. Regardless of where you're watching or listening, give us a follow, give us a rating. Helps
subscribe,
us
review.
Subscribe, rate, and review. Thank you. Got him. It's preseason. Okay. But it helps us spread our bullshit. So we appreciate those of you who have done that already. Once again, you can follow the podcast on all social media at Flag Down Pod. Basically, you can Google at Flag Down Pod. All this shit will come up. You can follow me, Andy, at Comiskey North. You can follow Parker at DJ Parkour and Matt at Matus Lee. And if you ever have any questions, comments, concerns, anything you want us to talk about, either shoot us a DM or, again, jump on live on Twitch. We'll be back here Wednesday after the game. We're going to be doing that for all of our U.S. Tour game matches this year. Boys, it's been a pleasure. Oh, it's been so long. And hopefully the audio works on this one, right?
We can only hope for the best.
Either
right.
way, podcast recorded or not, it's a fun time to get together and have a couple drinks and watch the boys. So
here's to more of that. Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Later.
I'm all potted out.
You know what he told me today, though, which really Fucking got my day off to a good start. I was gonna give him my Thomas Tuchel shirt to wear because apparently a British 2XL is really just an American large. So I was gonna be like, hey, like you can wear this around the house if you want. He goes, no, I don't really like Chelsea's manager. I'm like, no, you don't? He goes, no, I don't really like Chelsea. I like Manchester. I was like, which one? And he goes, there's more than one? I was like, yeah, there's United, who's the red team, and City, who's the blue team. He goes, I like the red team. I like United. There's a kid in my childcare who likes United, so I like United. And I was like, I literally just paid for your Chelsea in America membership. So, we're not doing that.
Sell them.
Right.
Aiden, let me tell you something about how English football works. You see something like that,
About
they sell you and get rid of you. Just ask Rom.
to loan you out to Grandma and Grandpa's house for a while.
With an option to buy.
You might get relegated, kid.